Hello, welcome back to Brain Break with Randy and Keitho. This is Randy. I wanted to touch base about an experience I had not too long ago that was really impressive to me. In the community I live in, which is Mesa, Arizona, and the school district that I had been working in as a substitute, which is the Mesa Unified School District, they have some back to basics schools. They're typically called Franklins. And my children actually attended these schools back in the day. There was only one. I know that some of our best friends, we talked about it. Our kids were going to enter school. Our two oldest were going to enter school at the same time. So literally, the father and I had to go spend the night for over a week to keep our place in line. And during the day, our wives and children would go spend the day there, and we would go at night and spend the night. That's how we kept our place in line so our children could attend. There was quite a demand for it, as you can imagine. Now, I don't know how many campuses there are, but there's several. And I had the opportunity of substituting at those schools. It was a little different. I'd like to tell you about that difference. They do things differently. For instance, they use the Spalding method when it comes to phonics. The kids learn phonics extensively. If I were to remain in teaching, I would want to learn that process because I was totally amazed at how well the kids were doing. Even the kids that I could tell weren't the most studious knew the rules of phonics and how certain words would be pronounced. All I had to do is, well, we're going to use this rule and that rule, and they were ready to go. It was incredible to me. And when we got to math, where normally I would spend quite a bit of time in a class teaching, math is my favorite, by the way, even over science, and I spent a long time in science. But I working in the water treatment industry. So I was shocked that once I laid down and went through the process of what we were doing in math, this class just got it. I mean, the whole class. There were probably 25 kids in there. It was fascinating. I was very interested, and I told them I would come back anytime. I didn't get called back, but I went home and I told my wife about the experience, and she said that's why we wanted our kids to go there. Our kids didn't think it was all that great. They thought it was a lot of work. But you know what? Our kids turned out pretty great. We love them all and are very impressed with them and how smart they are. Of course, I think everybody thinks that about their own children, don't they? But they call it back to basics. With this education, what's so interesting about it is they're very sensitive about things that aren't part of the educational curriculum being brought in. It's like when I was growing up, we had music as part of the class, and these kids do too. We had square dancing. Not sure where that came from. I've heard Henry Ford had a bit to do with that. But there wasn't an awful lot of time spent uh, when I was growing up learning phonics, learning penmanship. That's one of my biggest regrets. Is my dad's penmanship was incredible. He said his wasn't the very best in his school, and he went to a small school, and I just wish that we had have worked a little harder on that because here I am in my 60s. I was just reading my diary from when I was a missionary, my journal, and I'm looking at it and thinking, man, my handwriting's not gotten any better in all these years. It's a little sad. I wish I had have worked harder at penmanship. I wish I had have learned more about English. And that was one of the other things. These kids in fourth grade were able to diagram sentences better than I ever was. Now, my wife, when she went back to college to get her college degree in English, she learned how to diagram sentences. That was a skill that I was never taught. I don't know what happened. They thought it wasn't important when I was going to school, but we just didn't do it. Education does change. We've got to make sure that we keep our kids continuing to learn Frankly, one of the big concerns I have is we get so many people involved with, we're going to teach this, we're going to teach that. And I know when I was in a school where I was a long-term sub, I was supposed to create a science curriculum around the state standards. Well, I got to tell you, I'm sure those standards came from the federal government, and I can understand why some people want to get rid of the Department of Education, because it was kind of silly. I was trying to figure out, using 40 years of experience working for chemical companies and understanding the process of treating water, cleaning water, transporting water, as well as other things that I've done in my lifetime. It was difficult with the four things they wanted me to teach. Most of them, I could teach most of this in one day. My kids would get a great class out of it. So what I did, to be honest with you, with that class is I taught them all about water and wastewater treatment, to the point where after 3 weeks, I could show them a picture of a plant, and the whole class would be able to tell me just by looking at a plant drawing or a picture of it, if it was a water or wastewater plant. And then I could show them pieces of equipment. They would tell me if that was in a water or wastewater plant. I was impressed by how smart they were, all of them. They were great, really smart young people. And that was a difficult classroom, because in today's world, teachers teach with screens. When I was growing up, we had a chalkboard, and now they have whiteboards. But more often than not, what happens is teachers put together PowerPoint presentations, and they use that as their teaching. It's pretty fascinating. Most of us probably won't ever have a chance to go in and actually see a teacher's presentation, which is sad. I can't recall ever having a parent come in. I was observed by principals, assistant principals, and team leaders. I think I did okay. In fact, one class that I was taking as a long-term sub, I shadowed the teacher for a week. On the second day, she asked me at the beginning of the day if I would teach this concept in math. After I taught it, she was giddy. She was just like, I don't need to stay around. You know how to teach. I thought that was really interesting. It was interesting watching her get more excited about her impending retirement. She was going to have some surgery early, so she was leaving before the school year ended. That is the comment I wanted to make. As parents, I do believe that we need to be involved in our kids' education. My wife and I we helped found a group of charter schools. Our oldest daughter went through them, as well as our younger children. The youngest child wasn't learning that way, and so she went to a different set of schools where we got involved as well. And our son really wanted to go and be in the neighborhood school so he could go to school with his friends in the neighborhood. And that was a good experience for our two youngest children. So I would say be involved. Attend those PTO meetings. Don't ever miss a parent-teacher conference. Even dads, if that means you need to take time off from work, and moms too. I know when I did parent-teacher conferences, I scheduled them into the late afternoon so people could come with work schedules. I didn't want them to have to miss work unless they absolutely had to. But it was always fun getting to know the parents, and some of them were incredible. When I oversaw testing at a school, I was certified to be a test giver for the state tests. I had bought a big tub of peppermint candy, those soft mints you put in your mouth and they just kind of disappear. I see them a lot at weddings. Anyway, I bought one of those, and it was to get through, I thought, the week of testing. No, it barely made it past the first day. In fact, I don't think it made it past the first day, but another parent was thoughtful enough to send another one with her child. That got us through the next time, and then we could supply the kids for the rest of the testing with another one. And the thinking is by testing had proved that if you gave a kid the peppermint and or the root beer barrels to suck on, that actually improved their testing over say a Skittle or a Spree or something like that, some other sugary candy. I didn't see the results, but I had more than one teacher explain it to me, and I thought, well, I don't believe you're telling me stories. I don't mind going and getting that if that's what it's going to do to help them, because I wanted them to do well. This is final testing for the year. With that, I'll just say, be observant of your teaching. The first neighborhood schools that my wife and I ran into when we moved to Mesa, the school really scored poorly. What seemed to be most important to most of the parents was that the school had great activities, field trips, parties. We were more interested in what our kids could learn. And last example, our daughter went to a junior high, and she learned about the history of World War II. We are down at my in-laws, and my father-in-law and I are watching a docudrama on World War II, and our daughter knew who Winston Churchill was and who FDR was, even Eisenhower. She knew, but she didn't know who Hitler was. When Hitler came on, she was like, "Who's that guy? Why is he in this?" We're like, "Wait a minute, you studied World War II and they didn't talk about that? Were you absent?" I went back to the book. There wasn't a picture of Hitler, and I don't know what that was all about, but I thought it was crazy. But it made me a little dubious and quite a bit more supportive of my wife's concerns about our children's education. Dads, moms, be concerned, because your kids need to learn, and you can judge that learning by what you've learned. I think it's a great thing when a parent comes to me and says, "I don't know how to teach my kid this math," because that means we're pushing the kids harder than the parents were pushed. Since there's been 20 to 25 years of education since the parent went to school, maybe they should be learning things that are harder. Now, some people just aren't as good at math. I understand that. I love teaching math, and math is a big part of water treatment and chemistry, so it was never a problem for me. But I was grateful for that opportunity of being able to teach kids. In fact, that was the thing I got the most excited about as a substitute teacher. So I will let you go. I hope I haven't run this on too long. But thank you so much again for joining us for Brain Break with Randy and Keitho. And please like and subscribe. Kindly tell your family and friends about us. We thank you so much. Have a great day.